All right, I'm gonna have a quick discussion with you guys about this topic I constantly see on social media, and this is not to talk down to anybody that may feel a certain way about this, but it something has to be really said about this because I don't hear enough people talking about it, not in this fashion anyway. So I want to talk about this, ladies. We love you, ladies. We cherish you. For the most part, we really want to be here for you. Most of us, anyway. But when it comes to these video games and us loving to play these games and having fun with these games, that is not the problem. We are not the problem. I don't think you realize how much these games are keeping us sane, keeping us together. We go about our way of the world, doing things, working, trying to make a living, dealing with so much on the outside. When we come home, this is our escape. And I know some women, some females, some ladies may think that's unattractive. Some people, some women, some ladies may think that is a waste of time. But you just don't know how valuable that time is to us. So come here and pick up one of these controllers. Come in and start playing with the keyboard and mouse, or sometimes just playing with a handheld device. You don't know how much that does for us men. We deal with a lot, and it's not to say that we won't make time for you. And if we're not making time for you, that we're not talking about that kind of guy. We're talking about the guy who just wants to balance and keep their sanity because of the ways of the world that is weighing down on us, because it does. The guy who goes to work every day, try to make a living, you know, deal with all the stress and the strife of the world, and they just want to get away for a few hours, maybe a few hours every day. But they do have a way to balance it all. They're not the problem. And in some cases, and I think in most cases, I think it takes a good situation or a good time to understand why this is so important to us. It's not because we necessarily want to be number one on a damn leaderboard, or, you know, we want to be the best at whatever we do with these games, whatever. It's just an escape. Sometimes, these things really, keeps us away from other things. Drinking, doing other drugs, going out in the streets, dealing with other people we have no business being around, going places where we don't need to go. These things keep us in the house. They they save our lives. And a good man will understand that, how important this is, to the point where they'll learn how to keep a balance to where they could, have time for everything. But this time over here is very important. Now, I will say this, if you're dealing with someone who can't do that, maybe that's an issue that's bigger than what you are a part of. And you may not need to be a part of that at all. But if you just have a guy that has a legit hobby, this is something that is keeping that person together, believe it or not. These things keep me together. These things been keeping me at peace for over 30 years now. I didn't realize how valuable these things are until I actually started going to work and making a living for myself and dealing with people at work. And I have to realize, like, you know what? I don't have time for this. When I go home, I do not want to bring my job home. So, excuse me. So I started playing these, and that's when I realized that this hobby is bigger than uh, what I needed in my life. It's bigger than that. It is bigger than just, oh, I just need to make money and pay bills. No, I need this to keep my sanity. And I know a lot of guys can relate to that. Now, I know a lot of people, a lot of ladies, a lot of women they say that this is a waste of time, and then I'm gonna push back a little bit. I know a lot of people, they say that, and they're on these things right here. They're on these constantly, playing a game, scrolling on social media, actually watching TV shows, making their own content. Now, I gotta be honest, what's the difference? Like, seriously, I know some people who play games on their phones longer than I play games here. I know people who do that, but they're the same ones saying that this is a waste of time. You got to make it make sense to some degree. Now, I understand some people want their own time. They want to have, their time with their significant other. That is 100% valid. I'm not saying, that that's not something you should ask for. If your significant other is spending too much time on these things and you tell them about it, they should be able to come to some type of compromise and value what you want. My wife, she doesn't bother me when it comes to this stuff, but when she needs something, absolutely, I I absolutely do what she needs me to do because she gives me all the time in the world when I'm up here just playing a game, when I'm up here making content, when I'm up here just, sorting out these games or whatever. She comes up here every now and then, but most of the time she lets me have my space. But when she needs something, I get up and go because I think it's only fair. Now, if you have somebody who can't, have that balance, yeah, I can see that could be a problem. That could be quote unquote unattractive. That could be somebody that you don't need to be with. I mean, we also have to be honest, men and women, we do choose wrong at some time, and sometimes that we may see the best in somebody, and that could be a deal breaker. There could be some other things that's there that that could be detrimental to the situation or your relationship, and it's okay to understand. Okay, I chose wrong. This person is not for me. It is what it is. But if a person's willing to sacrifice their hobby and their time for you, or definitely to have that balance, that person's probably a keeper. But for the most part, we aren't the problem. The guys who come up and play their games and have fun and enjoy themselves and want to get away from the world, they're not the problem. They really can have a balance, and most guys do. They're not obsessed with this stuff. But just because they spend an hour, 2 hours playing these games and really, you know, I can't even disengage from the world and really keep their sanity, that is a smart man. That is a smart person. That is somebody that really understands what they are and what they're worth. You know, long as it's not an obsession, and that's for anything. Long as it's not an obsession that you're constantly up here all day, all night, and you can't take care of your responsibilities. I mean, that's ridiculous. That's a person that nobody needs to be with. But no, we're not the problem. We're not. And at the same time, I know you. Yes, I'm talking to you. I'm not trying to be funny, but I am talking to you. You're on these things all day. We all are. They're no different than being on any of these video games. We on those phones all day playing games, looking at apps, looking at social media, taking pictures, and I mean these things are our lifeline. And sometimes we're on those things more than we're on these things. So it's just, at some point, you just call a spade a spade, and it's okay. It's not to point the finger at anybody. Nobody's wrong for feeling the way they feel. But when you do step back and you got a responsible person who just want to play games and just want to get away from the world, they're not really the problem. It's enough BS going on in the world nowadays, and this outlet is probably one of the best outlets ever, and it's keeping people alive. And that is the honest truth. I know some guy, and I'm gonna say this before I get out of here. These things are keeping guys, some men alive. I know a guy. Let me say this before I get out of here. I know a guy. He has to be in his 60s, probably late 50s, and he just goes to work and he goes home. He felt like he didn't have no purpose. Everything was just routine. So, um, he ran across one of my videos, and we worked together. He ran across one of my videos, and he didn't know that I did, this type of stuff. And it's like, man, what's this all about? I haven't played video games since the early 90s or whatever. Like, how gaming is now. And I told him, like, look, it's expensive, but it's one of the best things you can get into. He said, man, I need something to do, man. I go home, I watch the news. There's so much doom and gloom out here. I need something to do. I need something to do. I need to do this. I'm tired of going out and just trying to find things to do. So I was like, well, why don't you look into, getting a gaming console and finding something to play? And it's like, man, I'm too old for that stuff. This, that, and the third. And it's like, man, just go out there and look. Go out there and look. So he did a little bit of research on his own. And he went to go get. I think it was either an Xbox One or Xbox Series. I can't remember which one he got. Yeah, he got an Xbox, right? But he got one of these. He got a game where I don't know if it's Forza Horizon. He got a racing game. It was either Forza or it was a rally game. He got one of the racing games, Gravel or something like that. He got one of those games, and you see it when he comes to work. When he come to work, he has like a different attitude on things. He feels so, because it feels like now he feels like, man. He told me, like, man, playing these racing games are just awesome, and he didn't realize how advanced gaming has gotten. He hasn't played game in probably about 20. I think he said like 20 or 30 years. He hasn't played a game, but he picked up a game. I can't remember what game he told me, but I think he got an Xbox Series S or X. It was one of those. He picked one of those up and he got a racing game. And now he said when he goes home, he doesn't have to stare at the TV and look at the news. He doesn't have to worry about what's going on in the world. Yeah, he still watches the news, but he doesn't have to go off into the world and worry about all the bad news that's out there. He genuinely comes home, he'll watch it, and then he'll play his racing game, and he goes to bed happy. He doesn't worry about the doom and gloom of the world. He feels like he's racing with others. I don't know if he's playing online or not, but he's racing with others and he's having a great time. And his demeanor, his focus, his whole personality just almost flipped within a couple of days since he told me that he bought it. And that's really cool. You never know what people are going through until they find a certain outlet that they have that they can go to, a certain outlet that they can actually, have a different avenue to take to, have different experiences in their life. And with that guy, with like I said, he got to be in his mid 50s, to the late 50s, and for him to get into this and actually have something to where he can look forward to now, because at that age, things start to slow down. You just want to coast through life and just be safe and have a good peace of mind. But I think that's what did it for him. Now he's much more happier because he has something to play, and it's just one simple racing game. And I think that's pretty cool. You know, that's what it's about: keeping your sanity, enjoying yourself, not trying to be confined to everything that's out there in the world. Just having a sense of sanity to where that you feel like you can go along another day because these games really are an outlet. So, we're not the problem. We're not. Some of us need this. Seriously. Some of us need these. Some of us need these. Now, do I need it? I can't say that I would go crazy if I don't have any of this anymore. I don't know yet because I never experienced it, but I know this is an intricate part of my life. I mean, just look behind me. This is something that I've been wanting ever since I was like 12 or 13 years old. And once I started living on my own, I realized how important this stuff is to me because there's some crazy folks out here. Jobs ain't the best. Even if you have a good job, it's still stressful. Dealing with people, seeing what's on the news, seeing what's out there in on social media. You just need this stuff to get away, and it's very important to me. So yeah, uh, I do need this, and a lot of us guys do too. So just wanted to say that, ladies, we're not the problem. We're not. If you find a good one that can balance this, you got a good one. You know, keeps us out of trouble. All right, y'all. I think I said enough. I've been on here for a while now. Y'all take it easy. Y'all be blessed. Peace.